Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. It's time to take the stories that has made it to the front pages of our national dailies this morning. And joining us to review the papers is JIDE Johnson, is a public affairs analyst. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning and welcome our listeners to JIDE and Women Show. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning.
Always a pleasure to have you. All right, let's dive right into the papers. The Punch, that's the paper we'll be starting with this morning, and it leads with marketers predict cheaper petrol nationwide as Dangote begins Naira sale. The writer here says refinery slashes loading costs to 865 naira after naira for crude deal. Fuel depot price to fall. So I think that is a fantastic thing for Nigerians, because we've seen the petrol price fluctuate a little bit, and here we are again at 865 naira. It used to be 890 naira, and there's been, or 880 naira, I presume, and it's been just 15 naira. And a lot of people would say 15 naira, it doesn't make so much of an impact. There's not a lot of significance there. But what's your take, especially with the fact that the naira for crude deal is back on?
That's no brainer. We shouldn't even be selling crude in dollars for local consumption. What comparative advantage and what benefit do we derive for God blessing us with that natural resources? At least it should be something which we should enjoy as a result of what nature and God has given to us. But the reverse is the case in Nigeria. It's a classic case of somebody that has an orange in his orchard, yet he couldn't afford to eat the orange in his orchard, whereas his neighbors and other passers-by have a better deal in having access to that orange. So it's a classic. It's something which nobody can really explain what really happens in the oil and gas sector. Besides that, there's a drastic drop in the price of crude globally. I think there's about $15 to $20 drop. I think from 65 to 57 or thereabout, or drop in the price of crude oil, which should also affect the pump price of petroleum product. You recall in the past, anytime there's a shift, there's a hike in the global crude oil prices, immediately before you say Jack Robinson, there's an increase. Now that we have a drop, we didn't see any significant changes in the price of petroleum product locally. But let's wait and see. Don't let us shout to yet, because we saw the kind of volatility and fluctuation that characterize the sales of petroleum product with respect to naira for crude for naira, or whatever policy that the government has put in place to ensure that the local refineries can have access to this crude product. They don't have to pay in dollars because they sell in naira to us in Nigeria. So they should be able to buy some certain, even if it's based on quota, they should be able to buy a certain percentage of what they sell to us in naira. So the naira for crude should be a standardized policy that encourages local refinery, not only to refine the product locally, but to also to export this product, make it cheaper for them to export it to other countries, so that we can earn foreign exchange earning from these, rather than selling it to foreign countries in raw crude oil, and then we don't have any value. The other value chains are tied to the crude oil. We don't have those values locally.
Now, everyone knows that petrol is the bloodline to every nation, right? And is important because with this product, we use it as an alternative source of power. We use it for transportation, for so many things at the moment. So our need for it is endless, to be honest. With this, why are we not really looking at our refineries? In Nigeria, we have 4 refineries, one in Warri, 2 in Port Harcourt, 1 in Kaduna. Now, Warri is operating at 60% capacity, and Port Harcourt on one hand is, just processing crude. So why are we not looking at, investing so much in our own local refineries? Maybe it could be public-private partnership. I don't know what would work, but how do you think we need to revamp or rehaul that sector to ensure that it's at our benefit? Because with Dangote, that's just one refinery, and he's an entrepreneur. He's going to do whatever is beneficial to his company. So what is the Nigerian government doing to ensure that our 4 refineries are working, and not just working, but in full capacity?
Government has no business in business except to regulate business. Until the private,
and that's the reason why I spoke about the public-private partnership, because I think in a way they're holding on to it, but how can even the private sector come in here to play and ensure that we get something out of this?
It's complete regulation of that sector. Government divesting its stake, becoming a minority stakeholder, and allowing the citizen to become majority stakeholder, in the sense that probably it should be deregulated, privatized, and let Nigerians invest. Let all Nigerians invest in this particular company, and let's bring in the expertise, the knowledge, the competence, and the transparency of the private sector. You see what one private refinery could do, what Nigerian government couldn't do for many, many years. For many, many years. I don't know whether another refinery was built by the government in the last 40 years. I don't think so. Now, what government couldn't do, a private sector investor was able to do that. Now imagine that happening. I think the solution is what you have provided, public-private partnership. Let government just have about 20 to 30% control of the stake in this refinery. And you see, it becomes functional. It becomes functional. Look, I've said it, look at what happened in the telco sector. Look at when government allowed private investors to come into the educational sector, particularly in tertiary education. You saw the opportunities that opened. We saw different types of schools. You have choices to make with respect to schools that your words could go to in terms of accessing university education. Even people outside of Nigeria are even sending their children to Nigeria to come and school in Nigeria because of the standardization, the professionalism, the quality that private institutions in the educational sector, particularly in tertiary education, brought to bear in that particular sector. So that's what we should look at, or you look at what happened in the telco sector. So that's what we should look at in the oil and gas sector. Allow the private business owners that have expertise. Look, for example, you saw the board of NNPC. You saw what the federal government did. The federal government went into private sector and poached the board of directors, the MD from the private sector. Why did they not promote somebody from within NNPC to head NNPC when the board was changed? So it's very clear that for us to make headway in this particular sector, we must reduce red tapeism, we must reduce the level of bureaucracy, we must reduce the level of government involvement in this particular sector, which is the nerve center, which is the epicenter of our economy. Our economy is highly dependent on this particular sector, and we cannot afford to leave it in the hands of civil servants or public servants who, for example, know that their employment is a life-based employment. Their promotion and the rest of it is not tied to any benchmark. It's not tied to return on investment. It's not tied to any KPIs. So what do you think? They know that whether you like it or not, it's like a barrack. Soldier go, soldier come. They will still be in service, because whether NNPC is productive or not productive, as long as they are employed as civil servants, they have 35 years without committing any crime. They have 35 years of being in the service, or when they get to the 60 years compulsory age retirement. So we need the solution is what you have preferred. Let the private sector comes in, partner with the private sector. Government should invest, and government should not have more than 30% stake in these refineries.
All right, let's move over to let's say a little bit of a political matter. Federal character, that's what is said on the Punch. Federal character controversy over Tinubu's appointments widen. And in fact, a lot of people are thinking about his list, and according to his list, about 29 appointees are from the southwest, which is Tinubu's region, his home region, 35 from the northwest, 22 from the south-south, 16 from the southeast, 25 from north central, and 24 from northeast. And a lot of people have been saying that there is no federal character in this. There's no balance, especially with the fact that they're noting the absence of key figures like the Minister of Youth, who is Ayodele Wisdom, the President's Chief of Staff, Femi Gbajabiamila, and the Controller General of the Nigeria Immigration, Kemi Nandap. And, you know, it's just been filled of accusation of regional imbalance in the administration, especially with the Southeast appearing significantly underrepresented. What's your take on this? Because looking at this list, I don't know what to make of it.
Well, it was a self-inflicted wound in releasing that list because a thorough vetting was not done concerning the list. I read the list. I saw where Mawa, the NDLEA, ZA was listed under Northwest and at the same time listed under Northeast. As far as I am concerned, when you talk about federal character or no federal character, there is an anomaly in the terms of the structure which you have in Nigeria. It is not peculiar to Tinubu administration. I just wish that those that have discovered their voices under Tinubu administration would have discovered their voices under Buhari administration. I said it over time. What we have seen in Nigeria is crass nepotism, exemplified by the political class as a result of political patronage. What you are seeing at the national level is a reflection of what happened at the state level, is a reflection of what happened at the local government level. You are talking about Nigeria. All you need to do is to come to my state, which is Lagos State, and you see the importance of appointment going to Lagos Central at the expense of Lagos East and Lagos West. So, or you go to Abia State, or you go to Enugu State, or you go to Benue State. We have seen the bastardization of norms when it comes to the spread of political appointment using this federal character and the rest of it. And what we call federal character in Nigeria is what you call the DEI in the United States of America. These characters that you appoint based on their ethnicity, based on the region which they come, who did they have? Who? For example, there are three ministers from Ogun State. What have they done for Ogun State? What contribution have they made? That the fact that the minister is from your hand, from your state, does not mean that it will bring any good to your state. That is even from your street does not mean it will bring any good to your street. One of the things we need to deal with is the issue of this federal character, which has given us an overbloated Federal Executive Council, overbloated civil service. If you look at this from the political end, if you really want to cry blue mother, it's for you to go to the civil service, and for you to go to the civil service and see how the North is shouting now, because for the very first time they saw somebody that has the character, the temperament, and the political willpower to do what they are used to doing when they have access to political power, to do what they are doing. So they are having a taste of what they've been doing to Nigerians for more than 50 years. So that's why they are now screaming. But I ask you to go to the federal civil service and take a queue and look at the ministries. I'll tell you, the Director of Finance and Administration, the Director of Finance, most of the key directors in most NDAs are from certain section of this country. If we really want to address this issue, we must reform it. There are positions you can't get to in the civil service, except you are from some part of this country. It's clear. It's an unwritten rule. Or you go to the military, you look at the general officer commanding the various formation, or you go to the police, or you go to agencies like NDLEA, you go to agencies like EFCC. You just go and take a queue. And what I want the Tinubu administration to do is to give us the comprehensive list of the permanent secretaries in federal ministries. There was a point in time in this country, majority of the permanent secretaries are from certain section of this country. Apart from the permanent secretary from certain section, the Director of Finance and then the director of administration. Their offices you get to in Nigeria, federal offices,
right,
that the lingua franca is not English. There's a language which you speak, which is the official language. All you need to do is to go to Abuja or go to federal offices. Even in Lagos, you go to NPA. I can go on and on and on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We need classical restructuring.
I agree with you completely.
It is not only the
I agree with you, because honestly, what you've said is the truth, is the fact, and that's the sad thing about the country that we live in.
But you want to talk about NTA. Who are the presenters in NTA?
Let's move over to another story, sir.
There is quote unquote an unwritten rule for you to present that you must cover your head as if you are from Iran, you are from Afghanistan, or you are from Pakistan.
All right, sir, we have to move over to another paper. So we'll look at the Nigerian Tribune, and it leads with growing disaffection in PDP puts party's future in doubt. It says the NEC, that's the National Economic, or rather the National Economic Council meeting in limbo. National leadership unable to meet, act and postpones North Central, Southwest region, Southwest congresses. So what's your take on this? First things first, let me let you know that there's been a new project called the Team Nigeria project that is obviously supporting President Tinubu in his presidential bid for office in COM 2027. But looking at what's happening in PDP right now, don't you think it's high time that they sort out whatever is going on there to be able to pose as a strong opposition come 2027?
Well, look, the Nigerian political class don't have ideology. And if you don't have access to the cookie jar, it's almost 16 years that PDP, 12 years now that PDP have not had access to 10 years actually, to executive power at the national level. So you have a lot of hungry folks that don't have any ideology, that don't have any temerity, that don't have any personality to stand on their own without having access to the national cake. Two, you have a party that lacks discipline, internal discipline, and internal control mechanism. How can you have a member of your party saying that in 2027 is going to ensure that APC wins in the state of origin and APC wins in the territory which is superintended as a federal minister? Such person should be disciplined. When people go rogue and you don't discipline them, it's like things fall apart. Let me borrow a classic from Professor Chinachibi: things fall apart and the center cannot hold. So the jugular of the party has been gone for by attempt to destroy PDP. Started with when PDP won, when they brought in Modu Sharif, who left APC then to come and join PDP to become the national chairman of PDP. That was when PDP lost it. From there they replaced Modu Sharif with Secondus, and the governor of Rivers State that brought him to be the chairman also ensured that he was removed, and then they replaced him with Yojahayu, who just crossed over from APC to PDP, having gone on sabbatical in APC to come back to PDP to make him national chairman. So what is that? What the destructive tendency of PDP did not start today. It started long time ago, and the death knell to their coffin was sealed by when they couldn't take a decision with respect to whether to expel Wiki or to discipline Wiki and his fellow 5 musketeers, who, according to a report, some of them have been rewarded with ambassadorial appointment. You can't be one leg in, one leg out. So as a result, you have 50 columnists within your party, and you don't deal with that, you'll be having the trouble which they're having now. As far as I'm concerned, PDP is dead.
Well, I mean, I think at the end of the day, what you just expect is, just ensuring that you stand as a strong opposition party. Like you've said, there's obviously someone doing something somewhere, he's not being disciplined, and it just shows the lack of discipline in that party. So anything goes and it's okay. Anyways, another story here.
Let me just quickly add this. And then you want to make your minority leader, someone to be the minority leader of your party at the Senate, which will give you a voice. We now made the special assistant to the former Senate President Abamuru, who was also a minister. You remember that recruitment for that led to a national stadium in Abuja when he was Minister of Interior. You have different characters in this country that are rewarded. It's a country that rewards mediocrity and criminality.
Well, I mean, I don't know, but we just keep hoping that corruption and you know, misbehavior or misdemeanor is something that would be in the past, because looking at where we are now, it just seems like we even reward people for bad behavior. Well, on the Nature News, and this is a story that is in other papers as well. The Nature News leads with 2025, 1,200 communities at risk nationwide as NISA issues flood alert on 30 states and the FCT as well. On the Business NG, it says Lagos, Abia, Jigawa face severe flooding risk. On the Nigerian Tribune, it says Lagos, Oyo, Delta, Ogun, 29 other states at high risk of flooding, the federal government warns. In Lagos at the moment, on the island especially, we've seen cases of flooding for so many years, and I don't know what is being done, you know, having to ensure that all the channels are, you know, open, the waterways, you know, are linked and all of that. But how do you think that we can deal with this? Because if there's already an alert of flooding, it shouldn't just be an alert. It shouldn't just be saying some people are going to be displaced. Something needs to be done about it. How can the government ensure that, first things first, they sort this out to make sure that, you know, 1,200 communities are not going to be displaced? And in future, what can we do to prevent things like this?
There's nothing we can do. We just wait year in, year out. They announce the flood. Money is budgeted for FEMA. You have Ministry of Human and Humanitarian Services at the federal level. You have various Ministry of Environment at the state level. What measures have they constructed? Canals, have they constructed drainages? Rather than do that, you know what we do? We recover natural drains, and what we do there, we convert it to estates. You just look around you, you will discover that where swamps are recovered, swamps are natural drainage system put in place by God to ensure that there's a flow. There's a collection of it collects every rainfall. And then what do we do for various canals that we have? We recover them, we build houses in them, we turn into estate and the rest and the rest of it. So year in, year out, when the rainy season comes, government will just release an alert. If you are lucky, it does not destroy your property, you are good. If you are unlucky, it destroy your property, you start all over again. You are left alone to face the consequences. Is it the way we respond to flood in Nigeria? Is it simply the response to flood in United States of America or to Ukraine? Someone said that the reason why God did not allow natural disaster to happen regularly in Africa, because God knew quite all right that we don't have the capacity to deal with this issue. Right. Imagine if snow falls every time. Imagine if snow should, the way snow fall in other climes. Imagine if African experiences snowfall and they experience that. What do you think will happen? We don't even have light. A lot of people will be frozen in their respective because there will be no heater. There is no even light to do that, and then people will even be able to move on the road. So he said that's the reason why God did not allow snow to fall in Africa, because he knew quite alright the kind of people that are there. Yeah. They know the problem. They will not take the right steps to address the problem. They will engage in wishful thinking rather than use their brain to solve their problem. They will be praying. Whereas God has given them brain, He has given them capacity, He has also given them the natural resources to combat to solve their problem, but they will resort to prayer to solve their problem.
Well, like you said, we just need to put measures in place. We just need to address this, because, I mean, in Lagos, like I rightly mentioned earlier, we've seen this year in, year out. There's always flooding. We saw what happened in Bayelsa as well. So there's so many states that are affected by this, and it's important that we address it to ensure that it doesn't happen again. Sir.
Ikoyi was designed not for skyscraper.
Anyways, we have to go now. We have
you see a lot of trees in Ikoyi. Yeah. What has happened to Ikoyi?
I think that's talks for another day, to be honest. Yeah.
was not designed for skyscrapers. It was designed for one-story building. Most of the houses in Agaji were just bungalows with a lot of trees.
We have to go now. Yeah.
Come to Agaji and see what the destruction, particularly under the present democratic regime, what it has done to Agaji. I can go on and on and on.
I agree with you. We're not even doing. We're not trying to.
That in the 60s, in the 50s, in the 70s, in the 80s, even in the 90s, you can't see drainages in the GRAs. What you see are boulevard. Boulevard are streets where you.
We have to go now. We have to go now.
Planted on the right.
I wish we can have. I wish we can have this conversation, but
still deployed, and they control it. But here, what we have, you have seen destruction of all of this.
I think we definitely need to do a lot more. I think we definitely need to do a lot more, especially with the trees that you even mentioned. We're not ensuring that we're, in nature. We just use everything as estates. But that's talk for another day. We want to say thank you so much for coming. It's always a pleasure having you. Thank you for your time, JIDE.
Women, thank you very much. Why did you think that God put a man in the garden and not in a house when he created man? Yet man uses that to destroy the garden. Every garden around him, man destroys it.
Thank you, sir.
So we must go back to nature because we ended with nature news. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we've been speaking with JIDE Johnson, is a public affairs analyst, and we've just been taking the stories that made it to the front pages of our national dailies. We'll go on a short break now. When we return, we'll be discussing our first hot topic, so please stay with us.